All right, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. Uh, Today's a little different. I'm on the Staten Island ferry today. Heading over to Staten Island, try a little barbecue, try a little pizza. But I thought before we do that, we should probably go through some a topic that's going to be on your test. So let's get right to that. Okay. All right, so let's look at the efficiency. We're going to revisit efficiency, right? So if we're at equilibrium, we would be efficient, right? So we're at Q1, P1, that's efficiency. So let's just go through this again, right? There's our consumer surplus, there's our producer surplus, right? And if we're at Q1, P1, we're efficient. Now let's look at efficiency losses. So we go with same graph, right? Same outputs. Okay, so we're at P1, right? We're at P, we're at Q1 for the quantity. However, what if we only produce Q2, right? Then we would have a loss of that triangle there, which would be D, B, and E. And that's efficiency loss from underproduction. So if we don't produce enough, then we are inefficient and we lose some efficiency, right? There's also the problem of overproduction. So let's go through that. Okay, same equilibrium. Everything's pretty much the same, but now we produce Q3. So we overproduce, right? When we overproduce, we have an efficiency loss from overproduction, which would be B, F, and G. Right. So this is important because we're going to look at times when we underproduce and we overproduce. Right? That's the topic we're going to do right now. So let's go and look at that. We're looking at a thing called externalities. Right? Externalities are cost or a benefit accruing to a third party external to the transaction. There's the consumer, there's the producer in a transaction, and now somebody who's neither the producer nor the consumer is either benefiting or paying the cost. If they're paying the cost, it's a negative externality. So if someone else is paying the cost, that makes it cheaper for the firm to produce because they're not paying the cost, the consumer's not paying the cost, the third party is. So too much is being produced. It's a supply side market failure, right? So the failure of the market is on the supply side. Right, now, let's look at this graphically. Okay. Right, we're going to label it marginal social benefit. This is the demand curve. Marginal, now this one I'm labeling marginal private cost because this is the cost to the private company, right? So we're producing at Q3. Problem with producing at Q3, we shouldn't be. We should be producing at Q1, right? So we're overproducing. When we overproduce, let's go back to that triangle, right? Go back to that triangle there for a second, and that's the deadweight loss. That's the loss decided by producing this amount. B, G, and F, I believe it is, right? So how do I get rid of this? Well, we tax them, right? When we tax the firm, we shift the supply curve to the left, and we're now at the originally, we're at equilibrium we should be, which is B and Q1. Now, if you notice the labeling, it's labeled marginal social cost, right? That's the cost to the producer, the firm, and society. So now everybody's paying the proper cost. It's no longer cheaper for the firm because we've taxed them, and now they're picking up their end of the cost. What's an example of this? Pollution would be an example, right? Pollution is an example of a negative externality. I dry clean my clothes, you don't, but you still breathe in the polluted air, right, from the dry cleaners. I don't take the buses, but I still have to breathe in all those fumes from the buses. So I'm somebody who's neither consumer nor the producer of a bus ride, but I am paying the cost by breathing in the dirty air. What we do is we tax them, tax the firm, and that will force the firm to either become more efficient or to produce less. Okay? So let's just go over that. Right externality is a cost or benefit accruing to a third party. Now let's look at a positive externality. Positive externality is too little is produced. This is a demand side market failure. All right, we're going to draw the same graph. Okay, and here's the problem. We're producing QE when we should be producing Q1. Right, and the triangle again, there is your deadweight loss, right, from the positive externality. What do? We subsidize the consumers, we shift the demand curve to the right, and now instead of having marginal private benefit, we're back at marginal social benefit. And because it was a demand side, you notice the supply curve was just labeled marginal social cost, right? And there's the loss from underproducing. So an example of a externality, a positive externality, would be a flu shot, the vaccine, right? That's what people are saying. Well, I don't need the vaccine. Everybody else is getting it. I used to be this way with the flu shot. I would never get the flu shot because I said, if everybody else gets the flu shot, then I'm protected. So I was neither a producer or a consumer, right? I was what we could call a freeloader in a sense. Right. All right, let's look at, all right, we talked about this. So let's just review it. Positive externality, too little is produced. Demand side market failure. Negative externality, too much is produced. Supply side market failure. Positive externality, since too little is produced, we subsidize. Negative, since too much is produced, we tax. All right, let's look at some government intervention. All right, we talked about negative externalities. We can do it through direct controls. We can cut their production, or the best way to do it is through specific taxes. The positive externality, subsidy, government provisions, things like that. All right, but we're going to focus, for us, we're focusing on taxes for negative, subsidies for positive. Right, here's just a couple of different ways to correct them. All right, now what I want to do is, because of things like this, what's the government's role in the economy? Okay, so the government can have a role in correcting externalities. They got to identify the existence and the cause. Has to be done in the context of politics, right? So let's look at this. We have private goods. Private goods are produced in the market by firms and they're offered for sale. Here are their characteristics. There's rivalry, right? Consumption of the product by a buyer eliminates the possibility of consumption of that product by another person. If, for example, one person buys a drink, a soft drink, it's not possible for another person to drink or consume it, right? So that's one of the characteristics of a private good. Excludability is the other characteristic. That's the ability of the seller to exclude a person from consuming the product if the person does not pay for it. In our example, if the person does not pay for the soft drink, the seller can prevent or exclude the person from obtaining or consuming the soft drink. Those are the two characteristics of a private good. That's important because we're going to talk about a public good, right? Public goods are provided by the government. They're offered for free, and here's the characteristics. There is no rivalry, there's non-rivalry, which means that once a public good is consumed by one person, it's still available for consumption by another person. Street lighting. If one person enjoys the benefits from having the street lit, other people on the block do not get less because I'm using the street light. Right? If I'm in Central Park and you're in Central Park, we both can enjoy the park. Now, what about excludability in a public good? There's non-excludability, right? It means individuals who do not pay for the public good can still obtain the benefit from the public. So I don't pay any of my tax or do anything like that. I can still go to Central Park. I can still use the benefit of the street light when coming home at night. Right? Now, the thing is, these two characteristics create a free rider problem, where once a producer provides a public good, everyone, including non-payers, can receive the benefit, which is the reason why, if you have these characteristics, the good has got to be made by the government, and not private. This is similar to what I spoke to you guys about with the shield that covers the country, right? You can't just open it up and say that the other people who don't pay for it can't get the benefit from it. All right, let's look at the last one, cost-benefit analysis. All right, cost is the resources diverted from private good production. So it's the private goods that will not be produced. That's the cost. The benefit is the extra satisfaction from the output of more public goods. All right, so I think we got a good grasp on that. Right? So we're going to go through. We have externalities, positive and negative. Positive, too little production. Negative, too much production. We tax, we subsidize. Then we have public-private goods, which you can exclude people from consuming. You can also not, if one person drinks the drink, second person can't have that drink also. Then we look at public goods, which are provided because private companies wouldn't provide the good because there's the free rider problem, which is you can't deprive someone of using the good whether they paid for it or not. All right, cool. I'll let you know how the pizza was and the barbecue. All right, take care, ladies and gentlemen.